Chapter 15, The Unimaginable Truth. A deep haze slowly worked its way around Naruto's form. It deepened in color as Naruto's sobs grew louder in turmoil and anguish. His teammate, Sakura, who he had a crush on for years ever since he started Ninja Academy, has died by her own crush's very hands. Such a betrayal that could only leave anyone guessing who would be that cold and heartless to kill their teammate. None other than Sasuke Uchiha, who stood proudly after he achieved that kill. A momentary frown was held upon his face before a contorted smirk replaced it. His devilish grin grew wider as he noticed that Sakura wasn't breathing anymore. He chuckled darkly and watched the two closely, mainly Naruto, because he knew that Sakura was his favorite person. The one he loved the most. He noticed that Naruto's aura was slowly expanding with every waking moment. A mere second later, a very bubbly tail began to take shape as Naruto's canines grew. His trademark whisker marks thickened and his eyes opened to reveal something never seen before. "Oh no," Kakashi thought out loud as he stared in hopelessness, "this isn't good at all. I need to find Yamato, and quickly." He bit his thumb, threw out a bunch of hand signs, and slapped his palm on the ground. "Kuchiyus no Jutsu, BOMF, yeah?" A brown pug asked as he appeared from the smoke. "Pakin. I need you to head south about 2 kilometers. Find the cabin with Yamato, and bring him here. We need him, as soon as possible." Pakin nodded his head as he gazed over to the genin and deceased female. "I can see the reason for the haste." He woofed and dashed the direction Kakashi had ordered, and eventually disappeared from sight. Naruto started growling as he grew a second tail. His heart was broken. The girl he wanted to be with, one of his best friends, was gone right before his very eyes. His tears eventually turned a darkened orange and began floating from his eyes as his chakra cloak increased. He looked up to see Sasuke, who had that same grin plastered across his face. "That's too bad, Naruto," Sasuke replied while folding his arms. "She shouldn't have tried to kill me. Such a weak and pathetic kunoichi." At that moment, Naruto snapped. "Gruoa!" Naruto bellowed into the sky. His chakra flared massively, and it caused a sonic boom to overtake the crowd. The whole audience instinctively pulled up their arms to shield their faces as the wind blew through them, flattening their clothes in front before they flapped loosely in the wind. Konan could only gasp as she lowered her arm and stared at Naruto. Her concern grew as she saw Naruto's chakra tail swaying furiously in the air. "This chakra, it's so massive. I'm almost suffocating at the sheer amount. This is what the Kyuubi's chakra is like?" She looked at Naruto's eyes and immediately paled. No more did he have soft blue eyes that only shone innocence and kindness. He's completed his Rinnegan. Why did his Rinnegan complete itself? She not only noticed the Rinnegan, she also noticed that Naruto had slits for pupils instead of being circular like they normally were, and his Rinnegan was a darkened maroon. His glare was what really left her shaking. She raised her arms to notice her hands were trembling. Was he really that scared? She hasn't been this disheveled since she was younger and still training with Jiraiya. Before she could dive any further into those memories, she saw Naruto move. The enraged Jinchuriki slowly placed the pink-haired girl down on the ground before he shot a deadly glare toward Sasuke. The Uchiha didn't seem fazed before he found himself 50 feet into the air. Naruto came by so fast that he couldn't even get a grip as the Sharingan user was launched into the sky and had the air blown out of his lungs. Sasuke hit the ground with a hard thud and tumbled 100 feet or so before bouncing back on the balls of his feet with dust and rocks erupting everywhere. He coughed violently into his hands and sputtered blood that drizzled down his chin. Damn it," he wheezed as he looked left and right. He couldn't see the orange genin anywhere, and that left him watching his surroundings. His deteriorated eyesight didn't make it much better, because everything was entirely blurry. "I shouldn't have used the Mangekyo. Shit." He couldn't think any further as Naruto roared toward Sasuke at inhumane speeds and swung his fist into Sasuke's face. The Uchiha felt like his face was being ripped off by the sheer force alone. Naruto combined Shinra Tensei with his Kyuubi strength, and it increased the power of his punches. It slung Sasuke back even further and pushed him into the woods, where he hit a tree branch. The branch split in half and slowed Sasuke down. He hit a few more branches on his crash course to the forest bottom. After a moment, blurry eyes opened and the ground came into view as Sasuke tried to pull his face from the dirt. He was learning real quick that Naruto was a lot stronger than he thought previously. He couldn't believe it. How did Naruto get this Doryuwa? He felt a pull from his body as he started zooming through the air without his control. He couldn't stop himself, and before he realized it, he was now back in the open and gliding ever closer to Naruto's palm. The look on the Jinchuriki's face was terrifying, but Sasuke didn't show any emotion about it. He just grunted in pain and wound up in Naruto's hand in a death grip to the throat. Naruto stared into his ex-teammate's eyes as he came face to face with him. There was coldness enveloped deep within those maroon-colored eyes, and Sasuke couldn't say anything. That is, until Naruto felt something stab within his chest. The Jinchuriki looked down and saw that a Chidori was implanted into the boy's body. He glanced back into his hand and noticed that the object he gripped between his fingers was a kawarimi log, and saw Sasuke behind him with his hand impaled through his body. Sasuke smirked in victory as Naruto looked stricken in pain. Gura! He roared in agony as the ache in his chest increased evermore. The stab mark was already staunched by the Kyuubi's chakra as Sasuke dodged Naruto's swinging fist. Even though Naruto missed, the Uchiha still got smacked into the air by an unknown force and was tumbling on the ground again through the impact. What the hell is that? Sasuke asked as he tried to gain his bearing. Naruto missed his attack, so how could he hit me? He looked back over to a distorted form of Naruto who began to grow feral. He fell to all fours as his canines grew even sharper and the whiskers even darker. Even Naruto's hair was becoming bolder than it was before, leaving a mahogany sheen from the chakra that continuously erupted around his form. Suddenly, a third tail shot forth from his chakra cloak as it swayed in disarray with the others. "You'll pay for what you did to Sakura-chan," Naruto growled as he stood there on all fours. The malice was apparent on the boy's face. There was nothing else but the thought of death for his male teammate to rip into bloody pieces all over the ground. Kakashi couldn't do anything to stop Naruto as he watched the intense fight. It was too dangerous to get in between Naruto and Sasuke as they battled it out. Especially Naruto. Whenever the Jinchuriki uses Kyuubi chakra, he loses all rationality and wreaks havoc on whoever made him angry and anything else that stands in his way. He knew very well that Naruto was going to not hold back once he saw Sakura meet her untimely demise. "I hope Pakin reaches Yamato soon. We can't have Naruto lose control and release the Kyuubi." He glanced over to Konan and noticed she looked a little frightened. She probably felt like she couldn't do anything. He couldn't tell. All he could do was watch on in silence as Naruto grew his third tail. His eye widened as that tail grew, and quickly. "This is terrible. It grew faster than I thought it would. We have to do something. We can't have his fourth tail emerge." Konan sat in silence, watching in horror as Naruto roared from the top of his lungs. This Naruto was different. He looked like he was in pain and far from being healed. He didn't look complete within himself, and he carried this evil aura. The chakra alone was vividly malevolent, and the tense atmosphere left her frozen in place. I can't move. Why is?" she gasped as she looked at Naruto's destruction. This wasn't like Naruto at all. He was a madman and couldn't be stopped. It was then that she was struck with a memory she suppressed her entire life. A memory long forgotten and dead, but still haunted her dreams like a recurring itch. Flashback: the battlefield was filled to the brim with aimed shinobi as two Akatsuki members held a standstill with a crowd of overwhelming Omegakure ninja. Both of the Akatsuki members held a defensive stance, while staring at the leader of AIM in disgrace. Hanzo the salamander was grinning through his breathing contraption as he found a weakness to the so-called Akatsuki. "Since I was an Akatsuki member, I was the first target, because I was female. I was bound and held captive by the AIM leader known as Hanzo, who wouldn't give in to their demands, so he held a secret plan with Danzo, who helped in this little charade. Both of the men wanted this group disposed of and forgotten, and what better way than to kill off the head honcho?" The leader of the Akatsuki was a young man with orange spiky hair and a mature stature. He wore a black robe and spoke with intelligence. It wasn't every day that someone came across a man like this, and it certainly proved why so many wanted this man dead. He understood the meaning behind death, and he understood the reason why peace was so difficult. He strived to achieve his master's will for peace and wouldn't let anything stand in his way. That's why he was left in a standstill and an ultimatum. He gazed his tired eyes to me, who was held prisoner up above. I was a woman that he loved very dearly. Someone he couldn't let pass away as easily as this. He looked down and questioned himself, his entire beliefs. He never believed that it would come down to this. This was the final moment where the thoughts of his childhood were in play. He had to become a man and face reality. If he didn't die, then the girl that he fell in love with would perish for his own fears. He couldn't let that happen, but he was too drowned in thought to make an absolute answer. Hanzo decided to spare the man the choice. Hanzo himself knew that he had to finish this ordeal soon, so he gave them a chance. He couldn't have the leader wasting any more time, so he threw a kunai that stuck 3 feet in front of the Akatsuki leader's teammate. A red-headed Uzumaki named Nagato looked up to the Amikage in question. He wasn't an idiot at all. He instantly figured out that Hanzo was expecting him to kill his best friend. "You," the salamander stated, "kill the one next to you, and I will let this girl free." I shouted as loud as I could over the rainfall, but I think my pleas fell on deaf ears. I could tell Nagato was afraid. He never knew that it would come down to this. He never knew that he would have to make the choice to kill his friend Or let me die. I was so grief-stricken. I shouldn't have been so stupid to get myself caught. If I would have thought my actions out a little further, this never would have happened. Before I knew it, I heard a scream of agony, and the sound of a kunai piercing a ribcage that filled the air in a sickening crack. I grazed my eyesight over both of my teammates, and saw that Yuhiko was stabbed in his chest by Nagato. I couldn't understand. I screamed as loud as I could at the pain that I saw fall before me. I heard Hanzo chuckle as he stared at my two teammates in amusement. It was over. My crush, my love, fell before my very eyes and hit the mud in a bloody mess. I felt like weeping and giving up. It tore me apart and scattered the pieces. The person who took care of me, who helped me become strong, fell lifeless in the cold pouring rain. Nagato stood still as what had happened before his eyes was taken in at once. I could see it in his face, the betrayal, the shock, the realization of it all. He couldn't take it anymore. He changed. I saw this look in his eyes that was far beyond reasoning. He roared. Nagato actually roared. It wasn't just some simple battle cry. No, it was a roar of vengeance, a roar of death. He pulled me free from Hanzo's grasp, and while lifting me, he didn't know that there were tags placed upon the ground, and they tried to keep us held down. Nagato kept me safe at the cost of those tags incinerating his legs. I watched as his legs burned, and I couldn't help but feel ashamed because of my faults. Hanzo ordered his men onto Nagato, and everyone tried to attack him all at once. He instantly repelled every attack like they weren't even a challenge. Seeing Nagato placed me on the ground, I could only look up and stare at these new eyes. His cold, dead, Rinnegan. I could see it within his face that he had given up. He told me to watch after Yuhiko's body, but I was too distracted by Nagato's anger to focus on the situation. Then, he did something that changed his entire life. Performing the Jito statue summon. It completely made him lose control of himself. I've never seen a man so enthralled with his power. He roared maniacally and was stealing away the souls of Hanzo's henchmen with a simple sweep. I saw him grin with satisfaction at his evil deed. I could only grit my teeth in frustration and look away as I tried to stifle my emotions. Nagato, you achieved vengeance. Does it satisfy you? Do you finally snapped and reciprocated the pain that has fallen upon you? That innocent and quiet young boy turned into a cold killer, just like the ones who took your life away from you. You went so far off track. It took you so long to realize. Nagato turned to me, and I fell breathless as I ended up staring straight into the eyes of a lifeless Naruto Uzumaki. End flashback, N-san. Conan-san. Conan snapped at attention as she looked to see Kakashi standing in front of her and shaking the woman from her daze. Conan-san. We have to stop Naruto. We can't let Naruto's fourth tail emerge. Conan looked around and noticed that indeed, Naruto was still fighting Sasuke. She completely lost track of time as she fell into her memory. Then her thoughts all came crashing down harshly within her mind. She clenched her jaw as she noticed the full scenario. Wait a minute. Naruto-kun, Naruto-kun. I can't with that. She dashed towards the Jinchuriki and the Uchiha as fast as she could with an unusual look on her face. Wait. Conan-san. It's dangerous. Kakashi yelled to deaf ears. He only sighed as he watched the woman loom closer to the fight. Maybe you can do something. I can only hope. Naruto and Sasuke both held a staring contest as the wind settled between them. The ferocity of the fight was pretty spectacular. Sasuke knew that Naruto got stronger, but he didn't think it was that much of an increase, and since when did he gain the Rinnegan? He was more perturbed at the fact that Naruto was stronger than him more than he was about anything else. He spit more of his blood to the ground as he watched Naruto stand up on both of his legs. Naruto's face was darkened in hatred as he leered upon the traitor Uchiha. His chakra cloak warbled with intensity as it darkened its red hues. He growled violently as his gaze sharpened in distaste. I'm going to end this, you motherfucker. Sasuke stood in silence and emotionless to Naruto's taunts, never breaking blurry eye contact away from the Genin's hate-filled Rinnegan. Shortly after, Naruto went on all fours as he dashed toward Sasuke. The Uchiha prepared as he fell into a defensive stance. He really wasn't in the best shape to have a full-on fight with Naruto. He had to save his energy the best that he could. Naruto disappeared halfway and left Sasuke widening his eyes. Not a split second after, Naruto stuck a knee to the back of Sasuke's head and sent the boy flying through the air yet again. Before he could hit the ground, Zetsu bounced out of Sasuke's body and cushioned his fall before he hit his head. All right, I should intervene now, Zetsu replied with a sigh. Sasuke picked himself up and looked at Zetsu in anger. Where did you come from, and why didn't you come sooner? Zetsu looked at the Jinchuriki before he turned to Sasuke. I was sent to watch over you for things like this to keep from happening. I'll relay the information to Madara. After that, the white man phased through the ground and left Sasuke momentarily to handle his problem until Madara returned to the site. It wouldn't take long at all, but that meant Sasuke still had to stall for a few minutes. Not many things were on the Uchiha's mind, although he knew that there were plenty on the Rabbit Jinchuriki's mind, but Sasuke did sweat a little from the instability of his ex-friend. He had to watch what he said, otherwise he would really get killed in his weakened state. Why are you making such a big deal about Sakura? She wasn't even that great of a kunoichi. But thanks to me we won't have to worry about that anymore. Now I can finally have peace, Sasuke said as he glared with tired eyes at Naruto. Shut up. Just shut up. Naruto roared as he gripped his head in rage. He was beginning to lose his sanity and the very core thoughts that made him who he was. He was losing it all. The only thought in his mind was to annihilate, destroy, crush, exterminate, kill. Something started bubbling on his chakra cloak as he bellowed in a demonic voice. A fourth tail began to emerge from his cloak as the chakra began to confine and seep into his skin. His growl was deepening and making his cry from earlier seem like nothing but a cat's mew. Naruto was beginning to fall on all fours whenever something grabbed him from behind and gripped him tightly. The Jinchuriki screamed as he felt weighed down by something. He quickly tried to get this thing off of him as he tried to pull it apart from him. The thing wouldn't let go as it held on for dear life, and it only enraged the monster. Naruto-kun, the person yelled as she held on tightly. The monster roared as he continued to wriggle free. This person was trying to restrain him, to prevent him from killing Sasuke, the one who murdered Sakura in cold blood. Naruto-kun, please, drip. Naruto froze in place as he registered a wet feeling hitting his shoulder. All movement ceased and a cackle of breathing could be heard from the Jinchuriki's mouth. It was almost like he was waiting on the person to continue, or maybe he felt that the person's voice and touch was familiar. Please stop. Please, I don't want to lose you too. Konan held tightly from behind as she trembled from the emotions. Her memory made her realize something truly important. Naruto was the only thing she had left, and Naruto was about to follow the same path Nagato walked. Naruto can't fall off from his path to peace, not when he's so close. She had complete faith in him. This time she realized the mistake of her inaction with Nagato, and now she finally decided that she would do something about it instead of standing back and doing nothing. That's why she didn't want to let Naruto go. She couldn't let Naruto go. She would be giving up on him if she did. She had to stay strong, if at least to get him to put his anger in check. She had to be his pillar of strength right now. You're important to me, Naruto-kun, Konan started with a quiver in her voice. You've taught me that I should move on, and that I should have faith, not only in you, but with the rest of the people in the world. Please, Naruto-kun, move on from Sakura's death. Konan felt Naruto flinch under her arms, and she heard an animalistic whine in sadness. Yes, it will hurt for a while, but that's why you should move on. Remember, this is one of the steps for peace. Forget the pain, but don't forget the person. Always remember that she will be with you in spirit. She will live in your heart forever, Naruto-kun. Konan had streams of liquid sadness streaming down her face, while she spoke with a soft, shaky tone and sad smile. So, please, Naruto-kun, let it go. These few moments felt like ages, but it was a good sign. Naruto's cloak receded back within the Jinchuriki and he started losing his tails, eventually leaving nothing but his slightly burned skin and his clothes on his back. His breathing was rapid from exhaustion and tears made their way down his cheeks as he heaved in sadness. Konan continued to hold on to him as she rubbed his stomach in a soothing motion and was gently crying on his shoulder. It's all right, Naruto-kun. I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. The Jinchuriki opened his eyes and gazed his now blue eyes back at Konan's face by his neck before he turned around and embraced her forcefully. She was surprised by the sudden attachment, but she relished the feeling and continued to wrap her arms around his sobbing figure. I will be your pillar, Naruto-kun. I won't hold back anymore, and I will support you. I think it's the least I could do for what you've done for me. Sasuke looked on in silence as he stared at the sickeningly sweet moment. It secretly made him wish that his mother could do the same for him, and he only narrowed his eyes at the scene. The time was coming for his revenge. It wouldn't take too long for him to achieve his retribution. For now, though, he had to stay alive, so he waited patiently until Madara appeared. Kakashi looked over in shock at the scene that fell before him. I don't believe it. She actually pacified Naruto. His lone eye widened as he saw the chakra that surrounded Naruto slowly dissipate until it disappeared. He was only left with questions as Yamato appeared through the trees in a violent rush. What's going on? What happened? Kakashi held his eye to the lifeless form beside his feet. Is she? Kakashi nodded sadly as he stared at the deceased female and spoke firmly. Not only that, Naruto went out of control after he realized that she died. He began releasing the Nine Tails chakra. What? The wood user yelled in fear. Where is he? Kakashi pointed over to the distance at two people embracing firmly, and a third person a little further in the background. Konan-sen went out there to stop him. She somehow calmed him down just moments before you arrived. It's a miracle, Yamato stated in awe. He was absolutely shocked that Konan was able to suppress his chakra and calm his emotions. He never heard of Naruto ever being able to suppress the rage on his own. Not even Jiraiya could prevent him from going completely insane. Whenever Naruto let the Nine Tails chakra consume him, if she wasn't here, Naruto would have erupted into full Nine Tails and went out of control. He looked onto the scene before him and felt a small smile form on his face. There really is something different about her. Soon after, a swirling vortex appeared beside Sasuke and Madara emerged from the hole. He took a glance at the scene and pondered momentarily before looking back to Sasuke. I thought I told you to rest? Sasuke did a loud snort before turning his eyesight. I had a little run into trouble. Well, for now, Toby started while gazing interestingly at the two locked in an embrace. We're going to have to retreat. I will set up another time for you to fight the Nine Tails. For now you need to rest. Let's go, Sasuke. The young Uchiha turned his head back to his ex-friend and the ex-Akatsuki member before closing his eyes and furrowing his eyebrows in anger. Madara, I'll talk to you later. The masked man said nothing as he swirled Sasuke in the eye vortex before doing the same to himself and leaving the ground before them completely empty.
End of chapter 15.